All right, more foolishness coming your way. This one involves some spoiled mayonnaise, so buckle up. The story begins with Brielle finding out her pregnancy test is negative. She sadly breaks the news to Clutch. Despite his understanding, Brielle worries that she won't be able to give him a family, but he consoles her, telling her that she's more than enough and they don't need a baby to determine who they are. Later, Clutch meets with Jason, his friend and advisor, and opens up about how his family life is affecting him. Jay tells him to stay focused and keep things in check so that he does not lose his chance of getting drafted into the NFL. They head to the field where Brielle watches Jay train Clutch, and while at it, Derek shows up with Molly and introduces her to Clutch as his new assistant who will help him prepare events up to the drafts. Clutch introduces Brielle to her, and Derek schedules a meeting with Clutch, encouraging him to make sure he's at his best before then. Right after Derek and Molly leave, Brielle stares daggers at Molly and tells Clutch she don't like the white hoe. Later, Molly makes squealing noises while being drilled by Jason, and after the act, he goes to have a shower. While he's gone, she goes through his bag and sees where he keeps his Ozempic pills. Days later, Brielle goes to a cafe and Ace, her old high school friend, runs into her. They catch up, and learning that Clutch is about to get drafted, Ace tells Brielle of all the hoes that come with it. She assures him that they can handle it. Ace gives her his card to reach out if she needs a little helping hand, and before leaving, he asks her to send Clutch his regards. On the day of the meeting, Brielle shows up expecting Derek but sees only Molly. She asks what's up, and Molly briefs her that Derek is no longer a part of the agency. Confused, Brielle asks why and for more details due to the sudden change in management. But Molly doesn't go into details and instead assures her that she's the right candidate for the job. She goes straight to business, asking Brielle to give her more information about Clutch, so she begins her interview, asking what helps Clutch rewind after coming home. As Brielle opens up a bit about Clutch's personal life, Molly asks,
Favorite position?
"Excuse my finest pardon?" Then the white hoe says they're basically sister wives.
It's almost like we're sister wives, really.
Molly then changes her approach, asking about their plans of having children, and Brielle tells her they are trying. Molly says she herself is very fertile. You're also willing to spread it for everyone. They end their discussion for that day, and sometime later, Molly meets with Clutch and informs him that he has elevated levels of steroids in his system. Clutching his pearls, Clutch denies taking steroids, but Molly tells him the tests don't lie, so he must have ingested them at one point in time, and now they have to find a way to get rid of them before it gets him flagged from being drafted. Clutch wonders who could have been behind it, and Molly says it's Jason since he's the one handling his medication. But Clutch refuses to believe, saying Jason is his day one homie. Molly plants seeds of doubt in him by telling him how serious the NFL drafting is. Jason shows up, and Molly tells him about Clutch's test result, but he refuses to believe it. Still, she questions him about it, and Clutch joins her. Surprised, Jason stares dumbfoundedly at Clutch and repeats that he can't do such a thing, but Molly cuts in, telling Clutch to consider who he works with moving forward. It pisses Jason off, and he walks out on them in disbelief. How you gonna side with the side hoe so quickly? Later that evening, Brielle tells Clutch about how Molly was being intrusive with her questions and suspects that Molly's trying to get close to him, but he doubts her. After seeing how wary Brielle is, he vows to keep his eyes open. Apparently, Derek was let go because of inappropriate behavior. There's so many red flags already, but man's acting like Ray Charles. Early the next morning, Molly calls Clutch, telling him to meet up with her by 10:30 for a flight booked that afternoon for a meeting endorsement he mustn't miss. But he reminds her that Brielle has a presentation that day, and the meeting was supposed to be the following Monday. Still, she says she can't reschedule it, so he reluctantly agrees. After the call, Brielle gets mad at Molly for intentionally setting this up, but she insists that he doesn't miss it. She makes him promise to keep his distance from Molly. Later that day, Brielle tells her friend Jasmine about Molly's antics, and Jasmine advises her to keep her guard up around her so she doesn't finesse into their lives. After a successful flight, Clutch and Molly arrive in Chicago, and he confronts her during lunch about how she's gotten 3 of the closest people away from him. In response, she tries to calm him down, saying that the others do not understand him and do not realize how important his drafting is. Angry, he tells her how Brielle has been there for him since high school, cheering him up, and that Molly should quickly do what she can to ensure his smooth drafting. Molly tells him she understands the pressure he's going through, but he should trust her, as she has been in the drafting business for a long time. She calls herself his family, saying that she is ready to help him succeed no matter what it takes, even opening up that she's a better partner than Brielle. Clutch immediately shuts her up, calling Brielle his family. He reminds Molly that they are simply there for business, and she's just along for the ride. "I'm sure she'll take that as permission to ride you."
can make you feel things that she never could, Clutch.
During their argument, a really big fan shows up asking Clutch for an autograph, so Molly seizes the chance and spikes his drink. At that same time, Brielle sits outside a park, and Ace coincidentally runs into her again. He asks her if all is good, and she opens up to him about the unease she's been getting from Molly. He advises her to pay attention to her instincts, and before leaving, he tells her to reach out to him for advice if she's ever in need. Later at the hotel, Molly chants while Clutch lies in bed.
Boy, I want me a big black bear.
She tries to clutch Clutch's sausage, but he struggles off despite being drugged and runs into a cab before calling Brielle and informing her about it. After getting home, a detective investigates the case. He's a detective? After hearing Molly's side of the story, he comes back and informs the couple that the evidence points to Molly being assaulted and that they found coke in Clutch's room. Confused, Clutch denies doing the drugs, reminding them about his career, but Brielle slaps him after thinking he might have cheated on her with Molly. She gets mad at him for letting his guard down and wonders if he'll be preyed on by other vicious women after he's drafted. She angrily walks out on him, and before the detective leaves, he tells Clutch to get a lawyer for what's next. Left alone, Brielle shames him for laying down with another woman. Heifer, what isn't clicking? He was graped. She worries about having to face more dangers similar to what they just experienced. She demands a break, and he leaves her. Days later, as Clutch trains at the field, Molly shows up and shows her flat assets. She says they can start from scratch, but he doesn't listen to her, so she tells him to join her meeting with Brielle as they smooth things over. The next day at her office, Molly reveals to them that she's pregnant, intentionally triggering Brielle, who nearly whoops her, but Clutch stops her from worsening the case. Devastated, Brielle tells Clutch she can't believe Clutch let this happen, and that Molly has torn them apart, so she angrily walks away. Blaming the victim is crazy. She later meets with Jasmine and briefs her on everything Molly has done. Jasmine tells her to fight back, but Brielle says she can't because Molly can ruin Clutch's career by involving the press. Brielle also worries that Molly might be superior to her as a woman if she's pregnant, but Jasmine clocks Molly just looking fatter and not pregnant. Before the draft day, Clutch ponders about his situation in the locker room, and Jason sees him, so he opens up to Jason about how Molly is ruining his relationship with Brielle. Jason then confesses that he slept with Molly, coming clean to Clutch, and he encourages Clutch to focus on getting the draft first, then he can deal with the rest. The draft day finally arrives and Clutch successfully gets drafted, but he finds it hard to celebrate with Brielle, not by his side. Brielle, on the other hand, tries to drown her problems with alcohol, but Ace visits her to comfort her, and after seeing how vulnerable she is, he decides to slip through her cracks to get her to trust him more. Clutch, on the other hand, leaves the party and heads straight home to meet Brielle, but he sees Ace eating her, so he attacks Ace. Brielle tries to explain that Ace was forcing himself on her, but Clutch hands her an engagement ring, which he had planned to use to propose to her, and tells her he's done. He walks out of the house and goes to meet Molly, who tries to seduce him, but he refuses to fall for her, so she drugs him using Ozempic, and he loses his mobility. Brielle, on the other hand, tries to go after Clutch, but to her surprise, Ace stops her, saying it's too late, and he reveals he has been working with Molly all along. Shocked and betrayed, Brielle asks him why, and Ace says he did it for the money. As Brielle tries to leave again, he brings out a gun and orders her to sit, assuring her that Clutch will be fine. Molly calls Ace, and after learning that he has Brielle under control, she orders him to put the phone on speaker for Brielle to hear how she plans to violate her man. She gets on top of Clutch and tries to make him obey her by saying hurtful things to break Brielle, but Clutch rejects her, calling her a crazy whitey with poverty eyes and saying she's mid at best. He tells Molly she doesn't stack up close to Brielle, but Molly retorts, saying she can give him a baby, and still Clutch says he doesn't care. He calls Brielle the one he loves, and she loves him for who he is. Clutch educates her on how love is about patience and standing together against the storm. Upset, Molly ends the call, and Ace laughs at the outcome, reminding Brielle about how Clutch has always loved her since high school. Confused, Brielle asks Ace why he's telling her, and he reveals that he's been recording all of Molly's conversations, and her motive is Clutch's baby. Brielle grabs his gun and calls Jasmine, asking her to call the police. She then shoots Ace in his foot and leaves to get Clutch. Meanwhile, Molly confesses that she just wants Clutch's baby so that he can pay for child support and she can live off that. As she prepares to extract his baby fluid, angry at him for not sleeping with her, Brielle shows up with a gun to threaten her. But Molly reminds her about the assault charges she can press, which will ruin Clutch's career. Fortunately, Brielle reverses the situation by playing one of her recorded conversations with Ace. She declares Molly's career over and takes Clutch out of the house. But Molly threatens to ruin Clutch's career, and seeing that Brielle isn't paying her any attention, Molly calls her a barren womb hoe. At that moment, Clutch gives Brielle the go-ahead to let her anger out, so he holds her earrings and watches Brielle mollywops her ahs. In a post-credit scene, Clutch is called by the Detroit NFL coach, and Brielle is rocking their baby. What a satisfying ending. It had some great terrible acting, but you can't expect much from Tubi. What did y'all think of this one?
Hey, if you like this video, make sure you subscribe now and turn on the notification because YouTube isn't recommending my videos. And if you like to watch more foolishness, click here or here.